Hi guys, Freddy here. Well, we're about 6 months out from the release of a new Star Wars film, and the Star Wars fan community is really bouncing around lots of theories. We're still trying to work out whether Rey's parents are anybody important, and of course, after the teaser trailer dropped, everybody's asking about, is Emperor Palpatine back, or is it going to be a flashback? What's happening with the Death Star that's seen in that teaser trailer? We haven't even reached the full trailer yet, and lots of questions are being asked. I don't really want to speak about those theories today. What I want to do is talk about old Star Wars theories, the ones which came out between old movies, which turned out not to be true. We had lots of ideas what was going to go on, and we were disastrously wrong. And I want to bring back up some of those theories because I still think they're quite interesting. First of all, I want to speak about Super Shadow. You see, today when I was talking about doing this video, I mentioned Super Shadow to my son, and I realised he's grown up in a post-Super Shadow world. You see, back in the days when the prequels were coming out, from 1999 on to 2005, there was this website, supershadow.com, where the owner of the site claimed to be the personal bestest friend in the world of George Lucas and know all these secrets. He put up old scripts to the prequels as they came out, claiming to have insider knowledge, and he released his own scripts for episode 3. But it was all lies. The guy was a fantasist, he was making stuff up, and that's not the theories I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about theories here which were just one person coming up and spreading lies. These were the theories that the community came up with, that we discussed over and over again. But we were wrong. We were as wrong as an idiot lying on the internet. The thing about Super Shadow that I do want to mention, though, is the guy was a total fantasist. For example, he put up a picture claiming to be himself, and you looked at the picture and you're like, that looks familiar. And of course it was familiar, because he was putting up a publicity photo of Ray Park. He did this with his girlfriends as well. Oh, look at how beautiful my girlfriends are. And they turned out to be models from Eastern Europe that most people didn't recognise, but they spotted on and started publicising the fact that they were nothing to do with Super Shadow. But I thought it was worth mentioning him. Now, these theories I want to go through in roughly the order that I remember them coming out in, which is basically the release order of the movies. Now, perhaps I was too young, or perhaps there weren't many theories around between Star Wars A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, because I really don't remember anybody talking about anything. We were just guessing that Vader would be back, that Luke would be back, etc., etc. But there were no major theories coming out of that. However, the real time I remember is between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And the first rumour I remember hearing as a child of around 10 years old was no disintegrations. Now, no disintegrations is a line spoken by Darth Vader to Boba Fett. He very blatantly speaks to Boba Fett out of all the other bounty hunters, saying no disintegrations. Now, the theory that went around at that point was that Boba Fett was actually one of the stormtroopers, or the leader of the stormtroopers, who'd attacked the farm on Tatooine in the original A New Hope. That the attack on the Lars family, which killed Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, had disintegrated them, which was the burnt skeletons we saw. And that would give Luke a reason for hunting down Boba Fett beyond the fact that Boba Fett had captured Han during Return of the Jedi. And that was one of the theories that went around. I also must bring up at this point that another theory appeared between Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, based around that same line. At the time, we'd just seen Mace Windu kill Jango Fett. The young Boba had escaped, holding his dad's head in his hands. And what we thought was Boba was going to turn up during Revenge of the Sith and disintegrate Mace Windu, leading to the line later in Empire Strikes Back. We had so many theories about that one simple line, and all of them turned out to be wrong. Next up, also between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, there was a theory based around the phrase, "There is another." This is a line spoken by Obi-Wan and Yoda as they watched Luke Skywalker leave to fight Darth Vader. "He is our only hope. No, there is another," they say. And this led to tons of theories between the release of the two films as we tried to work out who is the other Jedi. And I have to admit, me and my friends at ages 11 and 12 came up with the theory that it was Han Solo. This was all based around the start of Empire Strikes Back, because Han Solo draws Luke's lightsaber to cut open the Tauntaun for them to shelter on Hoth. Now, as far as we knew, lightsabers could only be used by Jedi, so we're like, look, Han wields a lightsaber, he must be a Jedi. We didn't know if they were powered by magic. We had no idea these were just simple devices that anybody could turn on at that point. So to us, it was definitive proof that Han was going to be the other Jedi. And again, we were wrong. Also in the lead up to the Return of the Jedi, but not based on anything said in A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back, but based on the publicity photos which were getting released, we saw the second Death Star, the pictures of that, in its rough, half-constructed state. And the theories bounced around the childhood community I was involved with that this was the original Death Star, that this was the wreckage, and they were going to be going back to it, that the Empire was repairing it, or there was some secret left aboard that had to be found. And that was our theory, that there was only one Death Star, and this was the wreckage that people were going back to. Again, we were wrong. Returning to the subject of Boba Fett for a while, all we knew about this mysterious character during Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi was pretty much that he wore Mandalorian armor. And the theories abounded that Mandalorians had been the other side in the Clone Wars. That what we were going to see when we finally got to see the Clone Wars would be large battles between the Jedi for the Republic and the Mandalorians in their fancy armor with rocket packs and missiles and all that. And I think these theories were based on a book that was handed out in the cinemas at the release of A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back, which had mention of Mandalorians at the Clone Wars. However, with a bit of internet searching, I can't find any evidence of this book. I just have a vague memory of going back 4 decades. This next theory came out after the release of Return of the Jedi, but before the prequels had ever been announced. And the theory was, and it's one I still like to this day, that Luke was the sacrificial twin. The kid that the Jedi were going to give up to Darth Vader to protect the other one. You see, when they split the twins up, one they put with a powerful political figure who'd be able to protect her, and the other they placed on Darth Vader's home planet with his stepbrother, under his own name, with Obi-Wan Kenobi living in the next farm. So Darth Vader could be able to sense the Force in Obi-Wan. If he ever returned to his home planet, he would find Luke, and, thinking he'd found his son, either train him or the boy would die, which would allow Leia to grow up and become the destined one which would destroy the Sith. Now, I still like this theory. It makes a lot of sense, but there's no evidence for it, so we're wrong? Are we right? You tell me. This next theory is one I remember coming out in the years leading up to the release of Episode 1 of Phantom Menace. You see, we'd heard that it was going to be based around Obi-Wan Kenobi and his Jedi Master, who we didn't even know was Qui-Gon Jinn back in those days. But the theory went about that the movies would actually be about Ben Kenobi, and that they would reveal through the prequel trilogy that Ben Kenobi dies fighting Darth Vader. And then we discover that Obi-Wan Kenobi, the one we see in the original trilogy, is actually ObiWan, a clone of the original Ben Kenobi. And that would be the twist, that Ben Kenobi dies fighting Vader, and his clone goes on to protect Luke and potentially train him up. Now, obviously, it was wrong, but it's a theory I really liked. It made a lot of sense. But, alas, whoops. Next up, we've got another theory coming out just after the release of The Phantom Menace, before Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, about everybody's favourite thing, Midichlorians. You see, in The Phantom Menace, we'd been told that midichlorians were these space bacteria which lived in people's blood, which made them powerful in the Force. And people hated that idea. But by twisting it slightly, it makes a lot of sense, and is a theory I still like a lot to this day to explain away midichlorians. And that theory is that these are not creating the Force, these are parasites on the Force. So somebody who's powerful in the Force, like Darth Vader, Anakin, has lots of these bacteria, these parasites living in him, feeding off his potential, which is why you can test for the presence of midichlorians and find out if someone's powerful in the Force. And it explains it away. It explains why you can't just get midichlorians and inject them into somebody and make them a powerful Jedi. It's why you test for midichlorians and find out if somebody is a powerful Jedi. Makes sense. I still like this theory. I still go with this one when I'm GMing. And the last of these old theories I'd like to go over is the secret spies theory. The theory that Chewbacca and R2-D2 were spies for the Rebel Alliance, that they're using their positions to travel the galaxy, gather information, and feed them back to the Rebels, or at least feed them back to Obi-Wan and Yoda. You see, we know R2-D2 hadn't had a memory wipe since the Clone Wars, but Obi-Wan claims not to know him. We also know that Chewbacca met up with Yoda during the Clone Wars and fought along with him, was one of the Wookiees that helped Yoda escape to Dagobah. And then Chewbacca just happens to turn up on Tatooine in the Mos Eisley Cantina where Obi-Wan occasionally goes. The theory existed that Chewbacca was reporting back to Obi-Wan, that he's got information and he uses his position, because it's Chewbacca that Obi-Wan meets up with first. Before he goes up to Han Solo to hire the ship, he speaks to Chewbacca. Now, as these fragments are so tiny, and there's no further evidence for it, but that's where all great wild theories come from. And that's just what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to go over these wild old theories that have since been proven wrong. That the stuff that we talked about in playgrounds when we were kids, the wild ideas we came up with, which aren't that much different from the theories which are bouncing around these days about Rey, Finn, and the Emperor's Return. Anyway, thank you very, very much for watching as always. Please like and subscribe if you like hearing an old guy growing in a full beard rambling on about Star Wars. But most of all, yous look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye.